Hey folks, before we begin, let me give you a quick reminder of the present state of events in the story of Krillin becoming a Saiyan. Boo had befriended Krillin, who in this timeline wished to be like Goku and got taken very literally. That's why he's a Saiyan. And future Android 18, known as Lazuli, was his partner of course, and they'd been able to convince Boo to go back to sleep in the sealed container and for them to look after it. But Shin the Supreme Kai, little megalomaniac that he is, very keen to rid the universe of Boo's influence because, you know, makes him look good, decided to be a big jerk about it, not trusting humans in this case, and thusly taking Boo's egg back to the sacred world of the Kais because of course he would know how to protect it, like he knows how to do anything else in his job. Krillin and Lazuli were left fuming at the gods, and karmic justice toward them would rain down upon them in due course, but would they get a bit of a blowback too? When Kibito disturbed the surface of the steaming ball, it exploded, and out from it came an enraged Majin Buu, red in hue, madder than ever, demanding to be taken to Earth to take out his anger on the two beings that he thought had wronged him. You know, in his head. He had no idea that it had something to do with the Supreme Kai. When shit had taken him to Earth, Buu, instead of thanking him, just consumed him, and thusly taking out Beerus at the same time, meaning there is no means to stop Buu from, at least in terms of the God of Destruction or his attendant. Yeah, nothing obvious. In the end, it's up to Krillin in the finale of what might have happened had he become a Saiyan. It had been quite some time since Buu had been taken away from Earth, and in that time, Vegeta and Krillin had developed a common understanding toward one another that another threat would befall Earth eventually, and that because Majin Buu was supposedly gone, that wouldn't mean that someone stronger might come along and try to wreck their world. After all, time and time again, it had happened before. Why wouldn't it happen again? They haven't seen eye to eye all that much before that point, but this was where the prince began to understand Krillin a little more, view him almost as sort of equal, having for the longest time deemed him a chancer, not a real Saiyan, wanting to wish himself into a Saiyan, even though Krillin had no intention of doing that. This was just an accident. He wasn't born one, so therefore he wasn't one. But now he was starting to act like one in his eyes, never settling, always fighting, being proud of his power, something which Goku had failed to really see the point of, which of course greatly irritated Krillin, and it greatly irritated Vegeta. So in their irritation, they found mutual compatibility. He never thought Krillin, his best friend and biggest advocate for so long, would start to lack basic common sense. After all, one of Goku's biggest drives was to be ready for strong guys, stronger guys. That's what Master Roshi had taught them back in the day, and now Goku is just not trying hard enough. Was Krillin overthinking it? Probably, but he had to admit he did feel better for having trained than if he hadn't. And just as well he had too. One day, when Vegeta and Krillin were training, they felt it. A sudden, powerful energy appearing on the Earth, followed by the snuffing out of a smaller power, the thing that had brought them there. Krillin knew what was going on. It's time! He's back! And he's pissed. Vegeta started in the direction of the energy. Turns out you were right. You wouldn't forget. The prince had to admit that Krillin was correct in figuring that Buu would find a way to escape. Damn it. If only Shin had trusted them, he wouldn't have been killed in such a way and everything would have been so much better. They could feel the power approaching and decided to meet it in the middle, instead of bringing the fight to the city where they were presently. However, before they could leave, Lazuli stepped out and told Krillin he was going nowhere without her. You felt it, right? There's no way I'm gonna let you take the fall for this. If there's anyone who could stop Buu from going crazy, it's us. She turned to Vegeta. I guess you're coming too. Try and stop me, woman. He saw this coming, Lazuli. Together we might be able to do it. The three of us. What about Goku? Said Lazuli with concern. What about Goku? He's of no use to us. Vegeta and Krillin then flew off with Lazuli, looking concerned as she watched the pair fly away. Not long after this, Krillin and Vegeta were flying over the wasteland and soon enough spotted the form of Buu appearing over the horizon. But something about him looked very unnerving. His skin was not pink, it was red, and fire was surrounding his usually soft frame. Krillin thought that the best plan here would be first to maybe reason with him, try and calm him down enough to not, well, blow up the planet, but he didn't get the chance to do so, as the margin basically kept flying and then flew into him, sent him pile-driven into the ground. The pain was so bad, some of the worst pain he had felt in his life. He had had no time to transform or be on guard. Boo was just wanting to waste him. This was unbridled fury, the likes of which Krillin had never seen before. This was the definition of anger. He thought that he had felt this when he turned Super Saiyan back in the day, but something about this was worse. This was an innocent childlike being having been betrayed. This pure persona had been hurt and it wanted revenge, fueled by the hate within its original core, the Boo of old. Wait, Boo! What's wrong? Tell me! Boo didn't respond though, other than manic grunts that were then punctuated with shrieks of anger as he began to punch Krillin again and again. Vegeta rounded on them and transformed, just about strong enough to get Boo off of Krillin for a moment and allowing that Saiyan to transform himself. The two of them were barely enough though to avoid attacks for the most part. Krillin was left thinking that if he had listened to Goku and not trained, he'd probably be dead by now. But even then, this wasn't enough to stop Boo or even start to mount some kind of an offensive. Where was Lazuli, Krillin thought? Wasn't she right behind them? After a few more minutes of the Saiyans fighting for dear life, Boo's eyes started to revert to his more usual shape, but he was still burning red in hue. But maybe he was calming down? Boo, mad! He shouted. Yes, we get that, you tub of oof! Vegeta got whacked for that. Can it, Vegeta? He's calming down! Don't antagonize him! Calming down? The prince exclaimed. Are you serious? I know, but this is our only chance! Krillin steadied himself and powered down, trying not to appear threatening. Boo, listen, we didn't trick you. We were tricked by that nasty Kai that brought you here. We should be mad at him. Boo was starting to grimace less. You tricked too? He said with a certain degree of plainness. Vegeta was still puzzled at the original strategy of Krillin and Lazuli to talk nice to him, how words could win the day, but it worked before, so he let the Saiyan speak. The point is that we didn't do any of this, putting you back in your ball without you knowing. We wanted you to stay with us, become our friend, because you are our friend. We protect you and allow you to sleep with us and have all the food you want. Boo was starting to decrease in redness. Boo, your friend? Of course, Krillin said with a smile. The genie was calming down. This was working. However, before Boo could mellow and relax properly, a massive ball of blue energy swept past Krillin and evaporated half of Boo's body. Krillin turned around to see where on earth that thing had come from. It came from Goku, Lazuli following in hot pursuit, looking devastated. Goku, what the hell? I told you not to attack! But Boo was about to hurt Krillin. I'm not gonna let my best friend be killed. Oh, Krillin didn't know what to think right now. He was both glad and mad that Goku had turned up, and yet also most likely ruined the whole plan with his stumbling in. Yeah, there's no way they're gonna talk him out of this now. Sure enough, when Boo had reformed, the angry hue and eyes returned. He was madder than ever. You lied to Boo! Rah! This time, they all had to fight. They were all going at the hardest they could, just to keep Boo from destroying them. It was getting harder and harder to do so, as Boo wasn't tiring and they were. Krillin was starting to regret all of this. If only he hadn't been a Saiyan, none of this would have happened, and he wouldn't have been responsible for any of this, being the one to lead the universe to its ultimate destruction. He should have defied Shin. What was he gonna do? His power level was less than Frieza's. He could have taken him out easily, or at least controlled him, or made him sense. Damn it, he was too agreeable. In one swift roundhouse punch, all four fighters were slammed to the floor as Boo prepared a massive ball of energy, ready to destroy the planet and then everything else. All four of them were left battered and bruised and utterly incapable of getting up. But as the energy ball was about to make contact, they had no choice but to get up and try. One last try. All four powered up to their maximum states and gave up all their power to hold the ball back from making contact with the earth. Krillin and Lazuli looked to one another and wept. We tried, hon. We did what we could, Vegeta shouted.
Damn it, you two! Don't you give up! This is not the time to be wishy-washy! Enough!
The prince was right. They had to muscle up and give it their all. With one last push, the quartet pushed back, and the ball was slowly moving backward. Boo was getting angrier and angrier though, and this was fueling the ball more and more, thusly producing some kind of stalemate. However, something came into the fray that would send heads spinning. In one fell move, the ball of angry energy vanished. Boo was too surprised to be mad and was looking at his hands, wondering where the energy had gone. The others were wondering this too. What had happened to make the key just whip out of existence? The answer will become clear soon enough, when a small blue-skinned man with a blue halo behind his head could be spotted floating down toward Boo. Boo was still mad and turned to punch the newcomer, but with one finger, he deflected it. In fact, it actually sent the punch right back at the owner, and Boo was sent flying, ending up with his fist in his mouth. "You are Majin Buu, correct?" said the figure calmly. Boo grumpily nodded, too confused to be really angry right now. "You are responsible for taking the life of the Supreme Kai of this universe, and thusly taking the life of our destroyer and his attendant. I am afraid you must be punished for your crimes. However, I sense something interesting within you." As the figure was inspecting Boo, Boo tried to attack him, but an invisible shield enveloped the small figure, and Boo was punching to no avail. The figure was concentrating hard, studying the likes of Boo, and was looking very calm. "I see. You are in the possession of a being of interest to us. They made a noble sacrifice, but now their actions shall prosper." In a sudden movement, without really caring about Boo, Boo was contorting and transforming into a similarly shaped being, with clothes though, which were starting to form. Pointy ears forming, and a tuft of hair replacing the antenna. The eyes were the same though. And if you're wondering how the GP could actually do this, Angels in Dragon Ball have been kept deliberately mysterious by the showrunners. That means they can just put in any kind of power, whatever they want at the time, whatever's convenient. So we're just gonna do what they do. Very clever move.
My gosh, what happened?
Said the being. "Welcome back, Grand Supreme Kai of Universe 7. I trust you are fully cognizant at this time." The Grand Supreme Kai then spotted who was talking to him and bowed profusely.
"The priest, it is you! To what pleasure do I find your company in?"
"I wouldn't call it pleasure, Kai. Your vessel was about to destroy the universe, you see. In a fit of pique, it had murdered the Supreme Kai of the East and thusly ended the lives of the universe's destroyer and my son. However, your return to prominence has corrected the latter fact. He shall be returning to his duties soon enough before we find a new destroyer." The Grand Supreme Kai bowed his head in sadness.
"My goodness! Is there any way we can bring him back?"
"Hard to say, but for now, we must seek a golden fruit from the Kai tree to fill in the gaps. Are you ready to return to your duties?" The Kai nodded.
"Of course, but there is one thing I must do first."
He looked down to the beings on the ground, flying down to them.
"Hello, Krillin, Lazuli. My former self remembers you. Don't ask me how. Our Lord Priest works in mysterious ways. I just wish to say thank you for being my friend and seeing the good in my vessel. Not many people would have been as selfless as you."
Krillin and Lazuli, exhausted beyond belief, nodded in gratitude. As they were talking, the Grand Priest studied Krillin closely, and then was finding out something that was off with the natural order. In one move, he appeared before Krillin and greeted him, Krillin being extremely nervous after what happened to Boo. "You are the being known as Krillin, yes?" he said politely.
Yes?
"It has come to my attention that you are presently a Saiyan of Universe 7, but yet not one. Some sort of mystical force has transformed you into a Saiyan. You were originally a human of this planet."
Yes?
That was all that Krillin could muster. "I see. Well, that is something I cannot abide by. It is not within the laws of nature for beings to change their makeup. I cannot allow this to continue." Lazuli exclaimed. "What? Don't you dare harm my husband!" "Harm him, mortal? No. I will merely revert your husband into being a human. After all, you have all done your best to defend against Majin Buu." "Well, what does that give us?" said Goku. The GP then replied very nonchalantly, "I would have erased you." "What?" I thought, well, it's a good thing they tried then. "Is there nothing I can say to convince you otherwise, sir?" said Krillin sadly.
I'm afraid not. It is my word. I have spoken. Please do not resist, human.
Krillin sighed and bowed his head. Goku wasn't happy though.
Wait, Krillin, you wanted to be like me. You're a great Saiyan. If you become a human now, you won't be able to become a Super Saiyan anymore. And who knows what else?
Krillin turned to his friend. Sounds like a challenge, buddy. He smiled and gave Goku the thumbs up as the white light of the Grand Priest enveloped him. Years later, a teenage girl was trying her best to concentrate. With all of her might, she was focusing a power to awaken from within her. Her father, watching from afar, was nodding, looking over at her ki. Come on, Marron, you got this! You gotta reach deep within and yank it out of there! I would show you myself, but yeah, you know.
Yeah, I get it, Dad. You keep telling me.
Marron then collapsed to the floor in exhaustion.
When's Mom gonna be back from the future? I want her to see me transform when I get it.
Krillin smiled. She needs to check up on it. Good thing we programmed it to arrive the day after she left. I felt kind of bad depriving them of their lazuli, but time, yeah. Weird, right? Marron laughed and got up to get a drink from the kitchen. Krillin then returned and began to focus on what his recent master had taught him. Unlock his potential. His ultimate potential. He had managed to perfect the power to formulate it to his own liking, and was hoping for the right chance to give it a shot. Luckily for him, the being arrived.
Hey, Krillin!
Shouted Goku as he flew down to the garden of Krillin and Lazuli.
Lazuli still not back yet?
Krillin sighed as Goku liked to make an entrance. Nope. And remember, don't tell the Grand Supreme Kai about the time machine. I'm already enough hot water with wishing to be a Saiyan, you know. I doubt that he or the even bigger guy will tolerate time travel if that got out.
Okay,
said Goku, but then another thought occurred to him.
Say, has that Kai taught you anything?
He has, actually. Want me to show you? I think it might be enough to match Super Saiyan.
Really? Well, I'd like to see that then.
Goku got into position, and Krillin readied himself, channeling deep into his soul. In one swift move, an orange turtle-like shell formed around his back, and his forehead dots glowed with an equally orange hue. His eyes turned red, and he was in his signature position. This is what I like to call my sagacious form.
Sagacious, huh? Well, I don't know what that means, but it feels strong. Ready to go, buddy?
Said Goku as he powered up to Super Saiyan. Yeah, as always, buddy. The two then began to spar. And in a way, friends, Krillin did end up being like Goku, in his own way. And that's where we end things.